What is up, everybody? I am R.C. Gates, and today for our comic review, we are going to be taking a look at the story of an android assassin whose memories have been completely wiped. She has no idea who she is, she has no idea what she's done, and her past is coming back now to haunt her. So please join me as we take a look at, honestly, one of my favorite comics, Perfect 10. Alright, so what we have here is we have Perfect 10, a story put out by Genuine Comics, and is currently an ongoing series. So Perfect 10 is about an android, or as she is better described in the story as a synthoid, so a synthetic being, who is an assassin who is unaware of her past life. Because after every mission, her brain or her memories gets wiped. So she's unaware of anything that she had been doing in the past. And this is a good lead in for the story because you're starting out at the same point where she is. You're learning everything as it occurs. You're getting introduced to new characters as she is also getting introduced to them, whether they be good characters or bad characters, or I should say heroes or villains. This is a good starting point for most people because this is the first book that was crowdfunded by Genuine Comics. So Perfect 10 is the introduction to this whole new universe of heroes and villains. Pretty much this is your gateway into the Genuine Comics universe. So we are going to jump into the story, and just before we get into that, I do have to let you guys know that I'm going to be doing the story part of the review a little bit different than what I usually do. Instead of going through the entire book, I am going to give a brief synopsis, go through maybe the first half, and not cover any of the stuff that goes on later on in the book. That stuff will be saved, if need be, for a spoiler part of the review, because I want to be able to I want you guys to be able to experience these books the same way that I would, or that anybody else would if you're first reading them. So, I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis, brief look at what this book has to offer, and if there are any really important things, then and if there are any really important things that need to be covered in like a spoiler section, that will come at the end of the review. So, the story of Perfect 10, as I've mentioned, it is pretty much the jumping off point for the Genuine Comics universe. So, you're starting at the same time as 10, the title character, is being woken up from, I guess, whatever sort of sleep the synthoids have. Presumably, this is also where they are kept in between their missions. So, you're thrown into this whole scenario where she is getting woken up, getting introduced to people that she is unaware of, and there is an attack going on from these various different other, I believe they're called meta-normals. So she is getting she and this entire facility are getting attacked by these meta-normals that are part of something called the Prime Syndicate. And during this time, she's having to ward off all of these monsters and creatures, and at the same time try and protect this doctor who woke her up, which is Dr. Pratt. So you're getting to see all these different characters who the Prime Syndicate seems to have a grudge against 10 for her past actions against them, the various different meta-normals that she may have killed, and she is completely unaware of anything that she had done because her memories have been wiped. So you're also seeing the aftermath of this attack on this lab, like this other synthoid who has gotten torn up and pretty much killed. So you're able to see how powerful the Prime Syndicate is, and you get a sense of how menacing they are and how much they're willing to do to avenge whatever happened in the past. And throughout this time, you're also getting more displays of what this place is that they are currently in. I believe it is Division M. And so this is a good way of showing both the protagonists and the antagonists and how they coincide with each other. So there's all these various weapons that are used with Division M. There's obviously this facility that they are in, and it's pretty much getting overrun by these villains from the Prime Syndicate. And it's almost like what you would see from like a horror movie. You have all these different creatures coming to one place and searching for one person who seems like they may not be fully ready to fight against these creatures, and it's pretty much going to be a battle between that person and all these monsters to get out and save themselves. So, as all these different Division M guards and scientists are getting slaughtered, 10 and Dr. Pratt are trying to hide themselves, trying to get to a better place where they can actually arm up and also figure out what exactly is going on with 10 and what is causing this attack on this facility. So it's really it's really a cool story, especially whenever you're seeing all the action that goes on and the tension that builds up during this time. Pardon me. And being able to see all of that play out in the story, especially with a short story like this one. It's not like a super long story. It's like the size of a regular comic book, but being able to see this feeling of impending doom and also have that be counteracted with a certain amount of kick-assery, like what's going on with this page, then that makes it much more interesting to see, and the way it plays off of each other makes it very fun to read through. With this being the first story or the first comic in this run, there's not really much to spoil with it, but I don't really think I need to get into any spoilers for you guys. Pretty much the entire thing it follows the attack on the facility. I don't want to get into too much, but you can infer what you want from the fact that there is more books coming after this. So let's get into the characters themselves. The main characters that you're going to want to focus on are obviously 10 and Dr. Pratt. And starting off with 10, as I've already mentioned several times, you're about as knowledgeable as she is whenever this book starts. You have no idea what's going on. You are being thrown into a situation that you don't know what to expect. And it's pretty much all entirely new to you. So, whenever there's a giant, hulking, werewolf looking crazy person busting through the roof, you're not going to know who exactly this person is. And that's a good thing. Because this is a way of starting off the story with action. And it shows how much 10 is able to fight back against these powerful creatures, supposedly not knowing anything. Like, all this seems like it's instinct to her as a synthoid. So it's like muscle memory. Especially from however many missions she's been on, especially with all these villains from the Prime Syndicate wanting to get back at her for this. So she is a mysterious character, but she's also a blank slate. So there's multiple ways of looking at a character who's a blank slate. There's a good way, and there's a bad way. There's blank slates that are Mary Sue's, who are just good at everything for no apparent reason. Think Rey from any of the last couple Star Wars movies, or other ridiculous characters that are mostly put out now. Those are not anywhere close to what 10 is. 10 is a blank slate in a good way, because she is someone who you are going to learn along with. She has a personality like one that, like, someone who genuinely cares about what is going on. She obviously tries to save as many people as she can, which is a bit of a shock whenever it comes to someone who used to be an assassin. But I guess that comes with having your memories wiped after every mission. But she is someone who is trying to do the best that she can with what she has, and she has a sense of heroism to her. So being able to follow her on that journey is certainly something that you want to do, because she's a likable character. She has a hero's personality, and she also has the mystery behind her of what exactly did she do. So, oh yeah, we also have to mention that she also looks darn good in that suit, in that outfit. Because I'm not going to go through a review without saying that that is actually something that looks good. It's a simplistic outfit with the possibility of having a lot of weapons with it, especially with the gloves and them being able to warp things from certain areas to her hands. So that's definitely something that is interesting to see, not something that I don't think I've actually seen something like that in comics before. So I think it's an interesting little detail. And it's also something that's able to show off the attractiveness of the character. And as you have probably guessed already, the name Perfect 10 does not just mean it's referring to her name. So, moving on to the character of Dr. Pratt, or his full name being Dr. Virgil Pratt. And he's the doctor who wakes her up. He is one of the characters who is responsible for creating the synthoids and pretty much causing this scenario. So he has a lot of secrets of his own. It gets into it more in the book, and his business relationship with this guy named Max Magenta. And he is the leader of Division M. So there's whole character dynamics with those two characters. Max is not really focused on much in this book. He's just introduced to you in here. And with Virgil, you get to find out the reasons why he created the synthoids and why he started working with Division M. And it makes you see him as he's a deeply flawed character, but he has his reasons why he's deeply flawed. He looks at 10 like he would like a good friend or a family member or like a daughter or something. And I have theories on that, but it's not confirmed, so I'm not going to say anything more about that. If you get into the book and you read it, then feel free to come up with your own thoughts on that as well. But he is one who he'll be like a mentor character, I think, and he'll be able to help 10 along her path to figuring out what exactly is going on. So it'll be interesting to follow both of these characters in their stories and in how they interact with each other. Now, the other characters in this who are major players in this are the Prime Syndicate. And there's a lot of them, so I'm not going to get into each one individually, but what I will say is that they seem like they are very powerful characters, villains, and they have unique looks. They each bring their own powers to the table. Like you have this giant skull guy in looks like a nuclear reactor in a suit, who's called Chernobyl, and he looks freaky as hell. And actually, now I'm going to save the freaky as hell for, what's her name? Porcelain, this chick who is in the black suit and the creepy faceless mask and pink hair. She's creepy as hell. Chernobyl just looks like he's a badass mofo. And seeing like all of those characters being able to have that many different characters with their own color schemes, their own powers, having it all in the first book is quite surprising, but also welcoming, because it gives you a sense of how a lot of people in this universe have powers, how the different kinds of meta-normals work together, and it gives you a sense of who's the most powerful. So it seems like everything is going to just continue to build up from here, because as the story goes on, you get to see more and more powerful meta-normals. And introducing the audience to all of these characters who I'm pretty sure that a lot of them will be brought back in later stories. It leaves the opportunity open for you to build that connection with these characters, even though they may be villains. It's like everyone, whenever it comes to comic stories, ends up having a favorite villain. Like, there's no Spider-Man without, or like, if you take a look at like Spider-Man, and you're always going to think Green Goblin or Doc Ock. Then there's Batman. You automatically think Joker or Superman, Lex Luthor, Brainiac. There's always going to be villains that you automatically think of whenever you hear a hero. And having all these villains in the first issue, even if they may only get in a couple punches, it puts that character into your head, especially if they leave some sort of an impact, and it makes you remember them. So I really like this group of Prime Syndicate villains because they do stick out to you. Now, let's get into the art. The art on this book is absolutely fantastic. Like, even in the first couple pages, whenever you're obviously seeing Ten getting awoken from her pod, I guess you can call it. I don't really know exactly what to call it. I'll just call it a pod. And it's doing like the comic trope of having various different stuff, like smoke and all that sort of shit, covering up all the naughty bits. This book finds a way to make it work, and it doesn't get distracting. So having that in the first couple pages just makes me laugh. But anyways, I digress. All of these action scenes, they all flow quite well. The characters are drawn uniquely. As I've said, the villains have their own color schemes. They're all instantly identifiable, even if some of the names of the villains need to be searched for. But that's understandable. I'll get into that with the writing. The women, whenever they need to be, they are drawn extremely sexy. They are drawn attractively. Whenever you need to see muscles, you obviously see muscle. Especially with this giant werewolf-like character on here. So, the men are buff. Females are hot. The other characters, they have their own unique styles. I've already said Chernobyl is creepy, and Porcelain is super creepy. And whenever there is panels on a page that need to be highlighted, like these ones with the sort of the lighting of impending doom, let's just say, or just already doom, like whenever these guys have to shoot each other's heads off. That's highlighted in a way that's not too distracting, but it automatically gets across the feeling of this is not going well. So being able to see that and how all this stuff is laid out, it doesn't come across as boring. It feels action-packed. The panels are laid out incredibly well. And even seeing stuff like the introduction to Max Magenta, the guy who's the head of Division M. Even just this little page of him standing around, painting his little figurines, getting updates on what is going on at this facility. Even this has a degree of importance to it, because it seems like it's not laid out like panel, 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 panel. There's panels that are laid out over top of each other. There's a decent amount of slant to it, so it seems like there's still a bit of action that's carrying over from the story that's going on at the facility. So watching anyone who's able to do that in a comic and be able to carry that action over throughout even the more calmer scenes is quite good. So when it comes to any of Powell Rodrick's art, I absolutely love it. Honestly, it's some of the best art that I've seen in independent comics right now. So pretty much anything that he'd be putting out, I would be wanting to back, because that is awesome. Honestly, one of the best I've seen. Now, let's go to the writing, and that's by the actual creator of Genuine Comics, Dave Brink. The writing in this story, as I have mentioned already, is something that you have not seen in a lot of stories. A lot of times the characters already are aware of what's going on in their universes. They know of who the villains are, or you're just thrown into something in media res. So you'll be stuck in the middle of something that needs to have a backstory explained to you. And sometimes it seems a little bit out of place. This book does it organically by having the main heroine be pretty much an amnesiac who doesn't know what's going on, has no idea of what is going on in this universe. You are being explained the story at the same time as what she is. So you have the same sort of questions and also the same amount of what the hell is going on as 10 does. And since you're obviously thrown into a fight scene immediately, and you're pretty much like it's meant to get your blood pumping and make you instantly curious as to what is going on. So as this is going on, you get little tidbits of information that tell you that shit's going down and they need to figure out what exactly needs to be done to save themselves. And as they are saving themselves, then they need to, at the same time, explain to 10 what she is, and also explain to the audience what 10 is, and what the backstory behind her is, and what this facility is. So, having the story laid out in this way, and also throwing in little bits of action and explanations and the actions of the villains, you're balancing out everything that is going on. You have enough info to get the reader to the next page, and you also have enough action to keep them reading. So, for an opening book, this is definitely one that will engage your interests. So, I honestly cannot commend Dave enough for how he wrote this book, because it instantly caught my attention whenever I read it. And it's kept me coming back for the second book, back to the third book, and I'm going to be backing future ones. So if it can catch my attention and make me want to come back, it'll definitely catch yours. Now, that pretty much also covers my interest in the story going forward, because, as I've said, I've backed the second book, backed the third one, and I'm going to be backing any of the other ones. But Genuine Comics has also caught enough of my attention to make me want to back anything in the Genuine Comics universe. Being able to see how all these characters interact with each other, seeing their different powers, and seeing the varieties of stories that can come out of this comic. It makes me want to see what other characters there are. And Genuine Comics does have other stories. Currently, as of the time of recording this video, there is an Indiegogo campaign for a heroine. There's an Indiegogo campaign for a heroine called American Bliss. Definitely go and check that out. And there's also a website that Dave Brink has for Genuine Comics where you can pick up other stories that he's put out. So I definitely recommend checking those out as well. But whenever it comes to 10's story, I want to see this and follow it for however long it goes. And I have a feeling that I will not be disappointed with how it progresses, because this is the opening to a universe, and it's made me want to stay in that universe and see where it goes. So any story that can do that gets high praises from me. And speaking of high praises, now we're going to get into my rating for this story. And for this one, I would definitely, this is a highly enthusiastic cake level comic story. And I'm going to continue following this story. I highly recommend you guys do as well. And I really want to see where 10 goes and how she continues to fit into the Genuine Comics universe. If you guys would like to see more fantastic comics just like this, head on over to the comic reviews playlist on my channel. You'll be able to see many more comics that am certain that you would like to read. If you would also please leave a like on this video, comment, and subscribe so you'll be able to stay up to date on all of the content that is coming out. I definitely don't want you to miss out on it. Thank you all for watching, and I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace out.